All right, we're going to do another tomato review today on this tomato right here, and it's called the Jersey Sunrise. Now, again, like I say in most of my videos right now, I didn't do a ton of research on it. I got some basic information on it, but there's not a whole lot of information on a lot of tomatoes I'm growing this year. What little I can find, I will scrub the internet, and I will put it in the description below. So, this tomato is a pretty interesting tomato. I do like it. It's generally a small type of slicer tomato. It's about Campari size. You can see here, it's slightly flattened, and it's small and round like a Campari tomato, but it is slightly flattened, and it's got some, it's got some of the ribs on it. It's Campari tomatoes are generally perfectly round. They don't have any ribbing or any, little lumps and ribs and little indentations and stuff that make this tomato the way it looks. So just keep that in mind. This is slightly flattened, as you can see. And I have a scale. Now I'll show you the inside. I have a scale. I'm going to weigh it for you to give you an idea of some of these tomato weights. Okay, that's what it looks like in the inside. Almost looks like a Campari on the inside. As you can see, there's a little bit of wilding in the rind. And you can see that the seeds are fully attached to the rind itself. That's a good sign. That means you get good flowers off your tomato. So that means it's going to generally make really healthy and good tomatoes when that flower forms correctly and it creates a really good tomato like that. So I always look for whether the seeds are attached to the rind or not. Usually when you don't see the seeds attached to the rind, there's problems with the flower. And that could be a genetic thing with the plant, or it could just be insects ate the flower. It could be a lot of things. But when you generally see the seeds attached to the rind, that's a good sign. So that's what it looks like. Let's throw this on a scale. Give you an idea on the weight. Hopefully you can see this. So this scale is teared off to 0, so there's no tear. Let's see what that weighs. That weighs 1.9 ounces, so that's roughly around a 2-ounce tomato. I'll just give you an idea on weight. Let's see what the other one weighs. Hopefully that weighs 2 ounces. It's exactly the same, about 1.9 ounces. And then, of course, we got this one I cut in half. That's about 1.4 ounces. It was a little bit smaller. So I weigh around 2 ounces in general. Okay, so as far as sweetness goes, I'm going to put that sweetness at about 50% from 0 to 50, so I'd make it like a 25 to 26. Wasn't quite really sweet, but it was nice. There was a little bit of sweetness in there, and it was very pleasant. It really contributed a lot to the whole sensation of eating the tomato. It wasn't just sweetness. It made part of the whole flavor profile come together. But it was roughly around midway, and I'd say that's probably around 25 to 26 on a scale from 0 to 50. Now, on the tangy side, that was right around the same thing. It was pretty much almost balanced, maybe slightly higher. So I'm probably going to say about 27. Now, the tomato flavor, let's talk about that. The tomato flavor was absolutely superb in here. If I was to give this a number from 1 to 10 on the tomato flavor, I'm going to give it an 8.5, which is really high. Very rarely do I go anything too much higher than 9 even on it. You never see a 10. But 8.5 on the flavor side of it, that's pretty high for a tomato. And that's mainly because the flavor of the tomato was very uniform and nice. It was very delectable to the tongue. It really brought together the sweet and tangy and coalesced with that aftertaste of the tomato in such a way that was very nice and exquisite in a tomato tasting sensation. It was a very pleasant experience, and that really comes from the tomato flavor. Now, I squeezed most of the seeds, and that flavor was really coming from the rind and the juices that were around the rind. So even without the seeds, I was getting an absolutely superb flavor. With the seeds, I'd probably rate it at a pure 9 because it would have really brought that flavor out. Without the seeds, you're getting an 8.5. I mean, that's just an exquisite type of flavor. Very, very nice. And I would say this is the kind of a tomato that would be excellent for salads and eating fresh, because this tomato is really going to work well in almost any type of salad you're making, and you're adding tomatoes to it. this is the kind of a tomato you want to add to your salads. And rather than some of the oddball ones that might be kind of awkward in flavor, this one was not awkward in flavor. And that brings us over to the next thing, is the moisture. And the moisture of a tomato is very important. If it's too moist, soppy, and wet, then that's basically the only thing you do with that is put it into a sauce pot and turn it into sauce. If it's too dry, then it's chalky and non-pliable. It's just dry and tasteless. You need that moisture in a tomato to really get that flavor going, to manage the contrast between sweet and tangy, and use that tomato flavor to bring it together. And if you don't have the moisture, you can't have that. That moisture is what brings that to the back of your tongue. So that moisture level really needs to be at least 50 or a little above 50 on the scale. And so a scale like I have here from 0 to 10, where did this tomato fall on that? I'd say, with 10 being the highest, I would say it probably fell at about a 6, maybe a 6.5 on the moisture. It was very moist. It had texture to it, but it broke up nice. The skins weren't too strong, so everything kind of broke up very evenly and nicely. It's a very perfect, I'd almost call this a commercial tomato, to be honest with you, because it had all the perfect attributes to it. The only problem is that the flavor is not commercial flavor. It's a very exquisite type flavor. Whereas commercial tomatoes tend not to be that flavorful, because the commercial industry wants to make a tomato that's uniform and acceptable to all people. So you get people who don't really like tomatoes, so they want a lower flavored tomato, and you get people who love tomatoes and they want a strong flavor, so they kind of go in the middle of that, and they create tomatoes that are semi-bland. To a tomato person, are semi-bland. Well, this type of tomato is definitely not a commercial type flavored tomato. It's an exquisite flavor. So we covered the moisture. Now the tardy and sour, I didn't really taste too much on the tardy. It may have had a little bit of tardiness to it. Tardiness is the part that makes your mouth want to pucker a little bit, like a lemon. And I didn't really notice that, though there may have been a slight hint of it here and there. So I might say a 0.05 on the tardy, well, basically 0. It wasn't much in there for me to really say that it was a tardy tomato. It was basically a 0. But there may have been a little tinge of it, tiny little tinge of it. So that covers the tardy. The undertones, I didn't pick up any undertones in it. Texture was perfect. I'm going to give that a 9.5 on the texture, meaning that the texture, it was still firm, so you can cut it up and put it into a salad. They'll keep its shape. But as soon as you eat it, it melted in your mouth. It was the texture on it was an absolutely beautiful type of texture. It was almost like eating a piece of candy, like a gummy bear, that's soft. And it was just absolutely delicious. I don't know any other way. It was the texture of it was delectable. That's the best way to put it. So I would say 9.5 on the texture of the tomato. It wasn't dry or chalky, and it wasn't, grainy like. A lot of times you eat tomatoes that are dry, they're kind of grainy. You could feel the grains of the tomato. It wasn't nothing like that. This tomato melted in your mouth as soon as you started to chew it. And last but not least is production. How was the plant in general? How was this variety as far as production goes? I would say the production wasn't the best thing in the world, but it wasn't bad. I mean, I'm probably going to pull off about 24 tomatoes this year off of this plant. But that's it. That's your tomato review on the Jersey Sunrise. Again, I will leave all the information in the description on this tomato, and I will also leave a link to my website where you can pick up seeds for this tomato. And if you have any questions or comments about the tomato, just comment below, and I'll do the best I can to answer it when I get time. I'm very, very busy usually, so it's hard for me to get to the comments, but I do read the comments from time to time. So that's it. That was your tomato review on the Jersey Sunrise. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.